Welcome to the Moving Planet Road.
Just turning the corner.
Ooh, the bikes are coming. The planet is moving.
Thanks, Ben. You just model closeness. This is good. Thank you. Great. Oh, the sun's coming. Yay, yay. And yes, are we there? I don't think I'm ready to get a job as a crowd warmer up quite yet, but just keep waving. Actually, you look gorgeous. So I'm just going to stand here and no, I'm good at crowd waving from here. But this event, Moving Planet, is actually one that's been convened globally by 350.org, which is a truly extraordinary global movement for taking really important action on climate change, not just the trivial cosmetic action that we're getting a bit used to, but real action that's people-based and is prepared to take the big issues on. Moving Planet is actually a global movement. There are events happening right across the globe today. Azerbaijan, Congo, Nicaragua, the US, the UK, China. There's even a 14-year-old kid in Kabul. We're not just waiting for leaders, we need to be leaders ourselves. And today, in the most beautiful possible ways, you've done just that. Right now, on every continent, in every nation, in 1,000 different languages, people are biking, paddling, skateboarding, kayaking, walking. They're showing that with bike lanes we can start replacing cars, with sidewalks we can start replacing parking garages. We can put the power of our muscles to work, and if we can walk to trains and buses, we can get where we need to go. Today there's no stigma attached to the bicycle and no glamour attached to the car, just the opposite.
Really quite exciting to be part of a big global event. You know, more than 150 countries, as Margaret was saying, and we think around 40 sites around Australia, not just the capital cities, but really getting out into the major centres. It's a fantastic thing. Look, I wanted to really just talk about a couple of numbers. I know that's dangerous numbers, most people are going to fall asleep, but maybe just 4 numbers I might touch on very quickly. I want to start with 294. 294 is the number of parts per million of CO2 that on average over the last million years Mother Nature has said is what she's comfortable with. You know, it's gone up and down. We've had 5 glacial periods and 5 interglacial periods over the last million years, but on average, you know, the climate naturally has oscillated within a band where it says we're comfortable with 294. The next number is 392. Now 392 is the number of parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere today. Right, that's where we're going. It's been rising consistently since measurements started in about the 1950s. In fact, the measurements started on a monthly basis. It's been rising ever since. 450 is the next number. 450 is the notional target, 450 parts per million of CO2 of not just the Australian government, but governments around the world in their attempts, which have of course failed so far, to come up with a meaningful global agreement to limit greenhouse gas emissions. If they were able to achieve such an agreement, that agreement would aim to leave 450 parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere by the end of this century. Now, I could give you one more number, which is 550 parts per million. Now, that is actually the number, for those of you who dig into the background of policy analysis, this federal government recently announced a clean energy package, so-called, that was going to sort of set a climate policy for Australia running out to 2050. And that policy is analysed by its own Treasury in the documents that the Treasury put out to deliver 550 parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere by 2050 if they succeed in rolling out the measures in that package. Now, 550 parts per million is a level of warming in the atmosphere that will drive extraordinary and damaging change. It is getting close to double what the Earth has said over the last million years it's comfortable with. And that's not just in ice ages, it's in the warm periods as well. Never in the last million years have we had 392 parts per million of CO2 in our atmosphere. Never. And yet we're targeting notionally 450 or perhaps 550. Now you may have heard of James Hansen. James Hansen is one of the world's preeminent climate scientists. He's based with the NASA Goddard Institute in the United States. Now, James Hansen is on record as saying 450 parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere is a recipe for catastrophe, for disaster. And yet the Australian government finds it appropriate to target 550 parts per million. On what basis? On what basis, I don't know. We must base our climate science on the facts. We must base our policy on the facts of climate science. Even if those facts are uncomfortable, even if it's an inconvenient truth that we're talking about, but that's what we must do. Now I could switch our focus here to Tasmania. In Tasmania, I have to say with great sadness, a Green Labor government recently released a climate action policy, a climate action plan that doesn't even target any particular outcome at all. It doesn't claim that it will reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the state, let alone telling us by how much, when. There are no strong measures in there. We need to do better than that. We need to aim high. We need to aim at what the scientists tell us would give us a chance of getting through this climate crisis.
It's really great to see everyone out here today. It's kind of days like this that remind me that I'm part of something bigger, and it's not just me struggling along, and on days when I'm riding my bike in the rain, it's thinking of events like this that enable me to do that with a smile. So thanks everyone for being part of this. I'm here to particularly speak to the young ones in the audience. I'm Ollie Lovell. I'm a volunteer for the Australian Youth Climate Coalition, and I'm here today to tell you about an opportunity to get more involved in this movement. This October, from the 15th to the 17th, we'll see over 1,000 young Australians converge on Brisbane. They're converging for a 3-day conference to network, hear and do workshops, and hear from amazingly inspiring speakers on this issue. I'm here to invite you to come, anyone from 15 to 25, to come and be part of this movement. This movement's really hoping to kind of change the debate in Australia and show that young Australians really want to take hold of their future and ensure a safe climate future.
Did you know that the world produces enough food for everyone, yet 1 in 7 people on our planet go to bed hungry each night?
So basically, our global food system is broken, and it's under further pressure from extreme weather events, rising food prices, and failing production. All of these pressures are in some part a result of the impacts of climate change. So our actions are not only impacting on our own lives, but our actions are also determining what's going to be left behind for future generations. So our actions are not only impacting on our own lives, but our actions are also determining what's going to be left behind for future generations.
Do you want to be part of growing a better future? You can get involved with a community garden or start your own. Choose to buy local food, cut your food waste, and choose food that's produced fairly and sustainable.
And as well as doing all of those things at home, you can also join Oxfam in asking the Australian government to work towards a global deal on climate change at the UN Climate Change Talks in Durban later this year, reduce carbon pollution by putting a price on pollution, and providing life-saving aid to developing countries that are feeling the impacts of climate change firsthand.
Be part of a future where everyone has enough to eat always.
And remember, together,
we can make good things grow.
Thanks everyone.